There is a room in almost every American home that feels heavier than the rest. Not darker necessarily, not smaller, just heavier. The air sits differently. Focus does not hold there. Sleep does not come as easily. And most Americans in their 50s and 60s have quietly accepted that as just the way that room is. It is not. There are 18 plants, ordinary, affordable, available at any garden center that were used for exactly these problems long before any product was invented to replace them. Today, we are naming all 18. And one of them, positioned near the end of this list, solves a bedroom problem that most Americans have spent years and real money trying to fix with the wrong tools entirely. Welcome to Natural Verge, where ancient plant wisdom meets practical modern living. Today, we are breaking down 18 indoor plants that each solve a specific problem inside your home. If you are not yet subscribed, hit that button now. This channel releases practical plant knowledge every single week built specifically for American homes. And stay with us, because the plant we cover near the end of this list quietly solves one of the most common bedroom complaints Americans report, and almost nobody connects it to something. Here is the mistake almost every American makes the first time they walk into a garden center looking for an indoor plant. They pick based on appearance. Something catches their eye, a leaf shape, a height, a color, and they bring it home and put it wherever it fits. 3 months later, it is half dead, and they assume they are not a plant person. That is not a plant problem. That is a placement problem. Every plant on today's list was chosen because it solves something real: poor air quality, low light, dry bedroom air, noise, stress, weak focus, or excess humidity in a bathroom. When you match the right plant to the right room problem, two things happen. The plant thrives because the conditions suit it, and the room genuinely improves because the plant is doing what it was built to do. That is the framework for this entire video. Problem first, plant second, room third. Keep that sequence in your mind through every item on this list, and you will leave this video with a genuinely different relationship to what you put inside your home. Most Americans assume that a dark room simply needs a lamp. Buy a brighter bulb, add a floor light, rearrange the furniture. What they rarely consider is that the heaviness they feel in that room is not just about light, it is also about air. Stagnant air in a low-light room accumulates indoor pollutants quietly and continuously. Formaldehyde from furniture, benzene from cleaning products, trichloroethylene from synthetic materials, these compounds build up slowly in rooms that do not breathe well. NASA early indoor plant research identified the snake plant as one of the most effective species for filtering these compounds in an enclosed space. That research is decades old. Most American homes still do not have one. The snake plant Sansevieria trifasciata, now often labeled Dracaena trifasciata at nurseries, does something almost no other houseplant does. It converts carbon dioxide to oxygen at night rather than during the day. This makes it uniquely suited to a bedroom or a corner room that stays closed for long hours. In USDA zones 9 through 12, it can survive outdoors year-round. But indoors, across every zone from Maine to Florida, from the Pacific Northwest to the Gulf Coast, it performs with the same consistency. It needs almost nothing. Water it once every 2 to 3 weeks. Forget it in a corner, it does not care. In terms of dollar value, a healthy snake plant at a garden center or nursery runs between $12 and $35 depending on size. Air purifiers marketed for a single room start at $60 and run on electricity continuously. The snake plant runs on neglect. For Americans in their 50s and 60s who are managing energy costs and simplifying their home routines, that comparison is not trivial. Look for the Laurenti variety, the gold-edged version, or the moonshine variety with its silver-green coloring, both of which handle low light reliably. For northern states, in zones 5 and 6, keep it away from drafty windows in winter. The one mistake most people make with snake plants is overwatering. Root rot is the only real threat to this plant. Water less than you think you need to. The next plant on this list tackles a completely different room problem, one that costs Americans far more than they realize every single heating season. There is almost certainly a space in your home that you have mentally written off. A dim hallway, a corner of a home office that gets no window light, a landing at the bottom of a staircase where nothing seems to last. Most Americans in these situations either leave the space empty or buy a fake plant and accept the aesthetic compromise. The ZZ plant, Zamioculcas zamiifolia, exists specifically for that space, and it has been solving this exact problem in commercial buildings and professional interiors across America for over 2 decades. The reason it works where other plants fail comes down to its root structure. The ZZ plant grows from underground rhizomes, thick, water-storing structures that allow the plant to survive genuine neglect for weeks at a time without any visible stress. Unlike most houseplants that begin to decline within 10 to 14 days without water, a healthy ZZ plant can go 4 to 6 weeks between waterings and look entirely unchanged. For Americans managing busy schedules, frequent travel, or simply spaces they do not visit daily, this is not a minor benefit, it is the entire reason to own one. In zones 9 through 12, it can grow outdoors in shade. Indoors, it performs consistently across all zones from the Northeast to the Deep South, from the upper Midwest to the Pacific Coast without complaint. A standard ZZ plant at a nursery or home improvement store typically runs between $15 and $40 depending on size and location. Compare that to the ongoing cost of replacing fake plants or the aesthetic drag of a perpetually empty corner in an otherwise maintained home. For Americans spending on home improvement in the range of hundreds of dollars per room refresh, a single ZZ plant that outlasts every other purchase in that room by years represents genuinely practical value. For variety, look for the standard green, the Raven ZZ with its near black foliage, or the Zenzi compact variety for tighter spaces. In zones 5 and 6, keep it away from heating vents, which dry the air faster than the plant prefers. The one mistake most people make is assuming they killed it when new leaves pause. Growing in winter, the plant is simply resting. Do not compensate by watering more. The next plant on this list moves into a completely different problem, one that affects the most used room in most American homes. Most Americans think of Pothos as a beginner plant, something you buy when you are not confident yet, something that sits on a shelf and trails down attractively without requiring much thought. That framing undersells what this plant is actually doing in your home, and it explains why so many Americans have one in the wrong location. Pothos epipremnum aureum is one of the most studied houseplants in terms of indoor air compound reduction. It has demonstrated consistent capacity to absorb formaldehyde, xylene, and benzene compounds that accumulate steadily in high-traffic living rooms and kitchens from furniture off-gassing, cooking residue, and everyday cleaning product use. The reason placement matters here is that Pothos absorbs compounds most efficiently when its leaf surface area is maximized and air can circulate around it. A plant stuffed in a low corner with compressed growth absorbs less than one allowed to trail freely from a high shelf or hanging position. This is the mistake most Americans make. They put Pothos where it looks nice, not where it works best. In a kitchen or living room, a hanging Pothos at ceiling height with long trailing vines creates meaningful air contact across a much larger volume of room air than the same plant sitting at floor level. Pothos grows reliably indoors across every USDA zone in America. In the South and Gulf Coast states, where humid summers create different indoor air profiles, Pothos performs particularly well because it actually tolerates higher humidity without complaint. In northern zones 4 and 5 during winter, when homes are sealed and heating runs continuously, a well-placed Pothos helps counter the accumulation of dry, stagnant, compound-heavy air that sealed American homes experience for months at a time. A healthy Pothos from any nursery or home improvement store costs between $8 and $25. A single stem cutting can be rooted in water and grown into a full plant within weeks, meaning one original purchase can supply every high-traffic room in your home within a single growing season. For the Golden Pothos variety, the Marble Queen, or the Neon Pothos all perform well indoors. The Neon variety is particularly strong in lower light. The one mistake to avoid is letting the soil stay wet between waterings. Trail it high, water it light, and let it do the work it was built for. What comes next on this list solves a problem that gets worse every winter in American bedrooms and most people have no idea a plant is part of the answer. Here is something most Americans never connect. The dry, scratchy throat feeling they wake up with every winter morning is not just a heating system problem, it is also an air composition problem. When American homes seal up for winter and heating runs continuously across the Northeast, Midwest, and Upper Midwest, indoor relative humidity often drops below 30%. That range is below what most respiratory systems prefer for restful, comfortable sleep. Most Americans respond by buying a humidifier. The peace lily responds to the same problem without a power cord, without a water tank to refill, and without the white mineral dust that humidifiers deposit on every surface near them. The peace lily spathiphyllum releases moisture through its leaves through a process called transpiration. In a closed bedroom, a healthy peace lily measurably contributes to raising ambient humidity levels over time. It also absorbs acetone, ammonia, benzene, and formaldehyde compounds that accumulate in bedrooms from nail polish, cleaning sprays, and synthetic bedding materials more than most people realize. In terms of placement, position it within 6 to 8 feet of where you sleep. It does not need direct sun-filtered light from a nearby window is sufficient and preferred. Peace lily performs indoors across all American USDA zones. In the South and Gulf Coast, where summer humidity is naturally high outdoors, the plant's transpiration contribution matters most during the dry winter heating months when indoor conditions shift dramatically. In the Pacific Northwest, where gray winter light is common, peace lily's low light tolerance makes it one of the few genuinely useful bedroom plants for darker winter conditions. A standard peace lily at most nurseries or grocery store garden sections runs between $12 and $30. A small bedroom humidifier costs $40 to $100 and requires ongoing maintenance. For Americans simplifying their routines in their 50s and 60s, the plant version of this solution requires nothing beyond occasional watering. Look for the Spathiphyllum wallacei for smaller bedroom spaces or the Mauna Loa variety for larger rooms. The one mistake most people make is placing it in a sunny window. It scorches easily. Keep it in the light, but never in the direct path of midday sun. The next plant moves into a completely different room with a completely different problem, one that gets worse with every year of synthetic material accumulation in the average American home. If you have ever measured the indoor humidity in an American home during January in Ohio, Minnesota, or upstate New York, you already understand the problem the Boston fern solves better than almost anything else you can put in a room. Most Americans think of ferns as delicate, high-maintenance plants that die quickly indoors. That reputation comes almost entirely from one mistake, placing them in dry air and low humidity to begin with, then blaming the plant when it declines. The Boston fern Nephrolepis exaltata is not delicate. It is a high-performance humidity producer that fails when placed in conditions that violate the exact same need it is being used to solve. The Boston fern releases more moisture through transpiration than virtually any other common houseplant available to American consumers. Studies looking at plant-based humidity contribution have consistently placed ferns near the top of measurable output. A mature Boston fern in a hanging basket can contribute meaningfully to the relative humidity of a sealed living space. Room over the course of a winter week, not as a replacement for mechanical humidification in extreme climates, but as a consistent, ongoing, low-cost contribution that compounds across the entire heating season. Boston ferns grow reliably indoors across all American zones when humidity needs are met. In USDA zones 9 through 11, the Gulf Coast, Florida, and parts of Southern California, they can live on covered porches year-round. In zones 4 through 7 across the Northeast, Midwest, and Pacific Northwest, they perform best in a hanging basket near a bright window where they receive indirect light and slightly elevated ambient humidity from nearby cooking or bathing rooms. Mist the fronds lightly in winter. Group them with other plants to create a microhumidity environment. A hanging Boston fern at a garden center runs between $15 and $35 depending on size. A basic whole home humidifier runs $300 to $600 installed. Even a portable room humidifier costs $40 to $100 and requires weekly cleaning to prevent mold. The Boston Fern runs on indirect light and occasional misting. For variety, the Dallas Fern handles lower humidity better than the standard variety and is an excellent choice for drier American interiors. The one mistake most people make is letting the soil dry out completely between waterings, keep it consistently moist, never waterlogged, never bone dry. The next plant solves a problem most Americans experience in a room they use every single day, but almost never think to treat with a plant. Most Americans who have a gas stove have never thought carefully about what that stove releases into their kitchen air between uses. The conversation around gas stove emissions picked up significantly in American media in recent years, but the plant-based response to kitchen air quality is a conversation that has been available for decades, and almost nobody applied it specifically to this room. The spider plant Chlorophytum comosum has been identified in indoor air. Quality research is particularly effective at absorbing carbon monoxide and formaldehyde, two of the compounds associated with gas appliance use and kitchen cleaning products. A spider plant on a high kitchen shelf is not decoration. It is a working filter placed at the height where air compounds accumulate most. The reason high placement matters for kitchen plants is that warm cooking air rises and carries compounds upward with it. A plant positioned above counter height intercepts air at the point of concentration rather than at floor level where compounds have already dispersed. Most Americans who have a spider plant keep it on a windowsill at counter level below the most active air layer in the kitchen. Moving it up to a hanging position or to the top of a refrigerator meaningfully changes what it is capable of absorbing in that space. Spider plants grow easily indoors across every USDA zone in America. They are particularly well suited to kitchens in the South and Gulf Coast states, where summer humidity creates conditions the plant genuinely enjoys. In northern zones during winter, when kitchen windows stay closed and stove use increases for warm meals, the spider plant earns its place every single day the kitchen is in use. A healthy spider plant at any nursery, grocery store, garden section, or home improvement store costs between $6 and $18. And because spider plants produce trailing plantlets called spiderets that root easily in water, one original purchase can supply your kitchen and every other room in your home within a single season at zero additional cost. Look for the Vitatum variety with its white striped leaves, or the Variegatum for a gold-edged option. Both perform identically. The one mistake most people make is putting it in direct sun. It bleaches the leaf color and stresses the plant without adding any functional benefit. Keep it bright but indirect. The next plant addresses a problem that affects American home offices and study spaces in a way that no productivity app, no desk lamp, and no ergonomic chair has ever fully solved. Most Americans who own an aloe vera plant have it sitting somewhere decorative on a coffee table, on a bathroom shelf, in a spot with no particular logic to it. Very few have it where it belongs, which is on a kitchen windowsill within arm's reach of the stove. Aloe Vera Aloe barbadensis Miller has been used across cultures for centuries as a topical treatment for minor burns, skin irritation, and sunburn. The gel contained in its thick, succulent leaves has been studied extensively and is widely recognized for its soothing, cooling, and wound surface properties for minor kitchen burns. Having one within 10 steps of your cooking area is not alternative medicine. It is practical household first aid that was standard in American homes before the modern first aid kit replaced it. Beyond the kitchen, aloe vera shares a characteristic with the snake plant. It performs its gas exchange at night rather than during the day, making it one of the few succulents with genuine value as a bedroom plant in terms of nighttime oxygen contribution. Position 1 on a bright bedroom windowsill for dual-function daytime sun collection, nighttime air contribution. Aloe vera grows outdoors year-round in USDA zones 9 through 12, Texas, California, Florida, the Gulf Coast, and the Southwest. In zones 4 through 8, covering the entire Northeast, Midwest, and Pacific Northwest, it lives indoors on the sunniest windowsill you have. It needs almost no watering in winter. Once every 3 to 4 weeks is sufficient in low-light indoor conditions. A healthy aloe vera plant costs between $8 and $25 at any garden center. A single tube of commercial aloe gel at a pharmacy runs $5 to $15 and contains preservatives, thickeners, and colorants that the raw plant gel does not. One living plant on your kitchen windowsill eliminates that repeat purchase entirely for minor household burns and skin needs. Look for the Aloe Vera barbadensis variety. The standard species is the most studied and most gel productive. The Aloe arborescens is a larger branching variety useful for sunny indoor corners. The one mistake most people make is overwatering a soggy aloe root rots within days. Water it like a cactus, deeply and infrequently, and only when the top 2 inches of soil are completely dry. The plant coming up next handles a problem in the home office that most Americans are spending money trying to fix in entirely the wrong category. You are at the halfway point of this list, and here is what you have built so far: a working framework for matching a plant to a specific room problem rather than a look. 7 plants covered, 11 more to go. And the plant we teased at the very beginning of this video, the one that solves a bedroom. Problem most Americans have been addressing with the wrong tools for years, that one is still ahead. It is coming, and it is worth staying for. If you are in your 50s or 60s and you have spent too many years replacing things inside your home that never really worked, this channel was built specifically for where you are right now. Hit subscribe. It is free. It will always be free. Natural Verge releases practical plant knowledge every single week, built for real American homes, real American budgets, and real room problems that nobody in your life ever sat down and explained properly. Right now, drop your state in the comments below. Your USDA zone and your region completely change which plants on this list perform best in your exact home. I will be referencing specific zones through the rest of this video, and your state matters for every single item still ahead. The next plant solves a problem in a room most Americans treat as a productivity space, but rarely treat as a living environment, and that gap is costing them something they cannot easily measure, but absolutely feel every single workday. Most Americans who have a home office have thought carefully about their chair, their monitor, their lighting, and their desk setup. Almost none of them have thought about the air in that room, and yet the air in a sealed home office with synthetic furniture, electronics, and limited ventilation accumulates indoor compounds in a way that directly affects cognitive clarity over the course of a workday. The rubber plant Ficus elastica is one of the most effective large-leaf indoor species for formaldehyde absorption, and its large glossy surface area makes it a particularly efficient filter in enclosed spaces like home offices, where a single plant creates meaningful air contact across the volume of the room. What most Americans miss about the rubber plant is that its value is not aesthetic, it is functional. The large leaves are not there for decoration. They are the mechanism. More leaf surface area means more active air filtration, more oxygen release during daylight hours, and a measurable contribution to the quality of the air circulating through a space where you sit for 6 to 10 hours a day. If you work from home, and millions of Americans now do, the rubber plant is one of the highest return additions you can make to that workspace. Rubber plants perform indoors across all American USDA zones. In the Northeast and Upper Midwest, where home offices are sealed from October through April, the rubber plant's year-round performance is particularly valuable. In the South and Gulf Coast states, a rubber plant near a bright indirect window performs with minimal care through the warmer months. A healthy rubber plant, typically 3 to 4 feet tall, runs between $25 and $60 at nurseries and garden centers. Compare that to an air purifier designed for a home office at $60 to $150 that requires filter replacements every few months. The rubber plant requires repotting once every 2 to 3 years. For variety, the burgundy rubber plant with its nearly black leaves handles lower indoor light better than the standard green. The Tyneck variety with cream and green variegation is a strong option for brighter offices. The one mistake most Americans make is placing the rubber plant in a dark corner, hoping it will survive. It needs at least moderate indirect light to maintain its filtering performance. Keep it bright, keep it indirect, and it will outlast every air purifier you have ever owned. Coming up next is a plant that solves a problem most Americans encounter in rooms they rarely think of as plant-worthy at all. Most Americans assume that if a room does not have a window or has a window that faces north and never receives direct sun, no plant is going to do anything meaningful in there. That assumption eliminates entire rooms from consideration and leaves them as the most stagnant, least maintained air environments in the home. The Chinese Evergreen Aglaonoma contradicts that assumption more consistently than almost any other plant available to American consumers. It has been used in commercial buildings, hospital lobbies, and office interiors for decades specifically because it performs in the low-light, climate-controlled, stale air conditions that are the hardest environment for most plants to survive in. The Chinese evergreen absorbs benzene and formaldehyde and maintains its performance in light conditions as low as fluorescent office lighting. In a dim hallway, an interior bathroom, or a room that faces north in a New England winter, this plant not only survives, it grows slowly, consistently, and without complaint. For mature Americans managing a home where not every room has ideal natural light, the Chinese evergreen fills the spaces that every other plant on this list cannot reach. Chinese evergreen performs indoors across all USDA zones in America. In the Northeast and Upper Midwest, where north-facing rooms receive minimal winter daylight, it is one of the only aesthetically meaningful and functionally useful plants that can be placed without supplemental lighting. In the South, it handles the lower light of interior rooms during the intense summer months when blinds stay closed against heat. A healthy Chinese evergreen typically runs between $15 and $40 at nurseries or home improvement stores. It is one of the longest-lived houseplants in American homes. Specimens kept for 10 to 15 years are common among gardeners who understand its low maintenance requirements. For variety, the Silver Bay handles the lowest light conditions and is the strongest choice for interior rooms. The red aglaonema adds striking color but prefers slightly brighter indirect light. The one mistake most people make is placing it near a cold draft in winter. It is tropical by origin, and cold air exposure below 55 degrees damages the leaves quickly. Keep it away from exterior doors and drafty windows in northern zones. The next plant on this list addresses one of the most commonly reported comfort complaints in American living rooms during the heating season, and the solution grows quietly in a pot. Most Americans who buy a tall indoor plant buy it for one reason: to fill a corner. The taller the plant, the better it solves an empty visual space. That is a legitimate reason to buy a plant, but it entirely misses what the right tall plant is simultaneously doing to the air in that corner every single day. The Dracaena, a broad genus that includes Dracaena marginata, Dracaena fragrans, and several related species, was one of the primary plants in NASA foundational indoor air quality research. It demonstrated consistent absorption of trichloroethylene benzene formaldehyde and xylene, a broader compound range than most individual houseplants address. A well-placed Dracaena in a living room or bedroom corner is not filling a visual gap. It is filtering the air at height in the room's largest open-air volume continuously. The reason height matters for air filtration is that indoor air compounds do not distribute evenly. They tend to concentrate near furniture surfaces, synthetic materials, and carpeting, and they rise slowly with heat from heating systems. A tall plant with active leaf surface throughout its height addresses the air column from floor to ceiling level in a way that a compact tabletop plant cannot. The Dracaena's architectural growth habit, 1 to 6 feet tall, depending on variety, makes it one of the most practical large-format air filters for sealed American home interiors. Dracaena performs indoors across all American USDA zones. In the South and Gulf Coast, where homes remain sealed with air conditioning for 5 to 6 months annually, Dracaena's year-round filtering contribution is consistent throughout both the cooling and heating seasons. In the Northeast and Midwest, it performs particularly well positioned away from cold drafts during winter. A healthy Dracaena marginata at 4 feet tall typically costs between $30 and $75. A large room HEPA air purifier covering the same square footage starts at $150 and requires filter replacements at $40 to $60 every 6 months. The Dracaena requires watering once every 1 to 2 weeks and repotting every 2 to 3 years. For variety, the Janet Craig Dracaena fragrans Janet Craig handles the lowest light conditions and is the strongest choice for rooms with limited natural light. Dracaena marginata is an excellent option for brighter spaces and offers a more dramatic silhouette. The one mistake most Americans make is using tap water with high fluoride content. Dracaena is sensitive to fluoride and will show brown leaf tips when it accumulates. Use filtered or distilled water when possible, particularly in zones 6 through 8 where municipal water fluoridation is common. The next plant on this list solves a problem that most Americans experience in their bathroom, and it has nothing to do with aesthetics. Most Americans assume that a philodendron is a tropical plant that belongs in a conservatory or a home with very specific conditions: warm, bright, humid. That assumption keeps this plant out of American homes where it could be doing genuine work every day. The philodendron, a large genus that includes the heartleaf philodendron, the split-leaf variety, and the increasingly popular philodendron Birkin, is one of the most consistent indoor air filterers available to American consumers. Like the rubber plant and the peace lily, it absorbs formaldehyde efficiently. Its advantage is the scale of its leaves, particularly in the split leaf or monstera adjacent. Varieties which creates large active surface area without requiring a tall, narrow plant structure. In a room where you read, work, or spend significant seated time, a philodendron positioned nearby contributes to air quality continuously during daylight hours. It releases oxygen through photosynthesis and absorbs airborne compounds from furniture, carpeting, and electronics in a way that is proportional to the size and health of its leaf surface. A philodendron that is actively growing, producing new leaves regularly, is performing more actively than a stagnant one. Keep it in conditions where it grows, and it pays back that investment in air every day. Philodendron grows indoors across all American USDA zones. In the South and Gulf Coast states, the heartleaf variety can be grown in partial shade outdoors during warm months and brought inside before first frost. In the Northeast and Upper Midwest in zones 4 through 6, it lives entirely indoors but performs exceptionally well near east or west-facing windows, where it receives bright indirect morning or afternoon light. A healthy heartleaf philodendron costs between $10 and $25. A philodendron Birkin or split-leaf variety runs between $20 and $60, depending on size. For Americans in their 50s and 60s who are curating their home environments toward calm, functional, and low maintenance, the philodendron requires watering once every 1 to 2 weeks and grows steadily with almost no intervention. Look for the Brassel variety for bright indirect light rooms and the heartleaf for lower light spaces. The one mistake most Americans make is letting the plant sit in a cold draft from an air conditioning vent during summer. Philodendrons are tropical, and even brief cold air exposure damages the newer leaves disproportionately. Keep it away from vents and out of the direct path of conditioned air. What comes next on this list is the plant we teased at the very start of this video, and it is worth every second you have stayed for it. At the very beginning of this video, we told you that one plant near the end of this list quietly solves a bedroom problem that most Americans have spent years and real money trying to fix with the wrong tools. This is that plant. And the problem it addresses is one that most Americans have never once tested for in their bedroom: airborne mold spores. American homes, particularly in humid coastal states, in basements, in older construction across the Northeast, and in homes that experienced any water intrusion or minor flooding, carry elevated levels of airborne mold spores in ways that do not always produce visible mold growth. These spores circulate through the home's air continuously and concentrate in closed sleeping spaces where air exchange is lowest. The result for many Americans is disrupted sleep, morning congestion, and a general heaviness in the bedroom that no mattress upgrade, no pillow change, and no white noise machine resolves, because none of those products address what is actually in the air. Research published in peer-reviewed environmental health literature found that English ivy heterohelix reduced airborne mold spores in a closed test environment by a meaningful percentage over a multi-hour exposure period. English ivy demonstrated one of the strongest mold spore absorption rates of the commonly studied indoor houseplants. For Americans who wake up with unexplained congestion, who have older homes, or who live in humid regions, including the South, Gulf Coast, Pacific Northwest, and Mid-Atlantic states, a hanging English ivy in the bedroom addresses the problem at its actual source. Position it in a hanging basket near the bedroom window where it receives indirect light. It prefers cooler indoor temperatures between 60 and 70 degrees, which makes it particularly suited to American bedrooms in USDA zones 4 through 7, where indoor winter temperatures are kept moderate. A healthy English ivy hanging basket costs between $12 and $30 at any garden center. The one important safety note: keep it out of reach of pets and children. English ivy is toxic if ingested. As an adult bedroom plant in the right placement, it is one of the most practical and genuinely underused solutions on this entire list. The plants ahead complete the picture of what a fully considered home plant strategy looks like from room to room. Most Americans assume that a palm plant indoors is a purely decorative choice, something that signals a tropical aesthetic without contributing anything practical to the room. The Areca palm Dipsis lutescens, commonly called the butterfly palm, contradicts that assumption with the same consistency the Boston fern does, but in a taller, floor plant format that suits living rooms better than a hanging fern. The Areca palm is recognized as one of the highest moisture-releasing houseplants available to American consumers. A mature Areca palm can release up to 1 liter of water into the air per day through transpiration, making it one of the most meaningful, natural humidity contributors you can place in a sealed American living room during the dry heating months of winter. The difference between the Areca palm and a mechanical humidifier in a living room is not just operational cost, it is air quality. A mechanical humidifier introduces moisture in a direct, concentrated stream. The Areca palm distributes moisture gently, continuously, and evenly through its leaf surface throughout the day. For mature Americans managing winter dry air complaints, cracked lips, static electricity, dry sinuses, and skin discomfort, the Areca palm in the main living space provides a continuous, low-maintenance contribution that a humidifier requires daily attention to match. Areca palm grows outdoors year-round in USDA zones 9 through 11, Florida, Southern California, the Gulf Coast, and Hawaii. Indoors, it performs well across all zones when placed in bright, indirect light. In the Northeast and Upper Midwest in zones 4 through 6, it needs the brightest indoor location available, ideally near a south or west-facing window, to maintain its transpiration rate through winter. A healthy Areca palm at 3 to 4 feet tall costs between $30 and $75 at nurseries and garden centers. A portable whole-room humidifier capable of the same square footage starts at $40 to $100 and requires weekly cleaning, filter changes, and daily water refills. For variety, the standard Dipsis lutescens is the most commonly available and most reliable for indoor American conditions. The one mistake most people make is placing it in low light and then wondering why the fronds yellow this palm needs genuine brightness to maintain both its appearance and its moisture output. Keep it bright, keep it moist at the root, and it will quietly and consistently improve the air in the room where most of your waking home life happens. The final plants on this list cover the spaces and situations that most of the earlier plants were not. Designed for, and at least one of them belongs in a room you have probably never thought to put a plant in before. Most Americans who struggle with sleep have visited a supplement aisle. Melatonin, magnesium, herbal blends with lavender extract listed as an ingredient on the back of a bottle. What very few of those Americans have tried is growing the actual plant in a pot on their bedroom windowsill. Indoor lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, and its compact varieties releases linalool and linalool acetate, the aromatic compounds that have been the subject of numerous published studies connecting lavender scent to reduced cortisol, slower heart rate, and improved sleep onset. The plant does not need to be processed, extracted, or purchased in capsule form to deliver this effect. A healthy lavender plant in bloom on a sunny windowsill delivers those compounds directly into the room, air continuously. In USDA zones 5 through 8 across the Northeast, Midwest, and Mid-Atlantic, lavender can be grown outdoors in summer and brought inside before frost as a potted plant for winter bedroom use. In zones 9 through 11, it grows outdoors year-round. A potted lavender plant at any garden center or grocery store floral section runs between $8 and $25. A 1-month supply of lavender-based sleep supplements at a pharmacy costs $30 to $55 with no plant to show for it at the end. Look for the Hidcote or Munstead compact varieties. Both are well suited to indoor pot culture and bloom reliably. The one mistake most Americans make is placing lavender in indirect light indoors. It needs the sunniest windowsill in your bedroom, not a shaded shelf. Keep it bright, keep the soil moderately dry between waterings, and let it do the work that a growing category of American supplement spending is trying to approximate. The bamboo palm Chamaedorea saffrezi solves 2 problems that most Americans address separately and expensively. Its dense cane clusters and layered fronds contribute meaningfully to indoor humidity through transpiration similar to the Areca palm, but in a more compact, corner-friendly format. And its physical density provides passive sound absorption in rooms that feel acoustically harsh home offices, hard-floored rooms, rooms adjacent to street noise. Acoustic panels for a single room start at $40 to $150. A mature bamboo palm at 3 to 5 feet tall costs $25 to $55 and improves with every growing season. It performs indoors across all American USDA zones in indirect light. The one mistake to avoid is overwatering in winter. Its roots sit in soil that should be kept moist, but never saturated. Position it in a corner where it can grow upward without being crowded, and it will quietly improve both the sound and the air of that space simultaneously. The bamboo palm Chamaedorea saffrezi solves 2 problems that most Americans address separately and expensively. Its dense cane clusters and layered fronds contribute meaningfully to indoor humidity through transpiration similar to the Areca palm, but in a more compact, corner-friendly format. And its physical density provides passive sound absorption in rooms that feel acoustically harsh home offices, hard-floored rooms, rooms adjacent to street noise. Acoustic panels for a single room start at $40 to $150. A mature bamboo palm at 3 to 5 feet tall costs $25 to $55 and improves with every growing season. It performs indoors across all American USDA zones in indirect light. The one mistake to avoid is overwatering in winter. Its roots sit in soil that should be kept moist, but never saturated. Position it in a corner where it can grow upward without being crowded, and it will quietly improve both the sound and the air of that space simultaneously. The Parlor palm Chamaedorea elegans solves the bathroom plant problem that most Americans have never tried to solve at all. Most American bathrooms are either too dim, too humid, or too small for the plants that look appealing at the nursery. The Parlor palm was literally classified by the Victorian-era indoor plant market as a standard for low-light interior use, and nothing has replaced it in that category since. It handles bathroom humidity as an asset rather than a liability, thrives in the low natural light of a frosted or north-facing bathroom window, and stays compact at 2 to 4 feet tall indefinitely in a pot. It performs indoors across all American USDA zones. A healthy Parlor palm runs between $12 and $35. Keep the soil consistently moist, not wet, and resist the urge to repot it until it is visibly root-bound. What comes next closes this list with the 3 things that can undo everything you have just learned and the honest starting point for your actual home. We are not ending here. You can choose every plant on this list correctly and still fail if you do not know these 3 things. Mistake 1: buying the plant before identifying the problem. Every item on this list was built around a specific home problem. If you walk into a nursery without a room problem in mind, you will buy based on appearance and repeat the same cycle that left every previous plant struggling. Problem first, plant second, every time. Mistake 2: placing the plant for aesthetics instead of function. A peace lily on a sunny south-facing windowsill scorches and fails. A pothos on a low-floor shelf filters almost nothing. A snake plant in a bright, well-ventilated room is solving a problem that room does not have. Match the plant's known strengths to the room's known weaknesses. That combination is where the plant performs and where you actually feel the difference. Mistake 3, underestimating the difference between surviving and thriving. A plant that is merely surviving, barely holding on, not producing new growth is contributing very little to your home's air, humidity, or atmosphere. A plant that is actively growing, producing new leaves regularly, and responding to its environment is doing the actual work this list described. Water correctly, light correctly, place correctly, and your plant moves from surviving to genuinely contributing. Now, where to actually start? Here is the honest breakdown. If you have never done this before, start with the snake plant and the Pothos. Both are nearly impossible to kill. Both solve real problems, the snake plant for dark, stagnant rooms, and the Pothos for high-traffic air quality. Master those two, and you will have the confidence to add anything else on this list. If you have been doing this for years and want to upgrade the functional performance of your home, add the Areca palm to your main living space, the English ivy to your bedroom, and the Boston fern to your driest room. Those three together create a measurable shift in the air quality and comfort of the rooms where you spend the most time. If your goal is specifically better sleep, build around the peace lily, the English ivy, and the lavender. Place them in or near your bedroom. Give them the right conditions. Evaluate after 30 days. You will feel the difference before you measure it. Every like you leave on this video tells YouTube that this information is worth showing. To other Americans who are still putting plants in the wrong places for the wrong reasons, that reach matters. Hit the like button now. Drop your state in the comments below and tell us which plant on this list you are starting with. I read every comment and I will call out specific zones in the replies. Think of one person in your life who is still spending money on air purifiers, supplements, or humidifiers that are not solving the actual problem. Send them this video right now. Not a message about it, just the link. That single action could change how they think about every room in their home. You just received zone-accurate, dollar-grounded, research-aware information on 18 plants that most American homes are missing. That is what every natural Verge video delivers. Subscribe now and turn on the bell. The next one is already coming.